People hire a coach for either they need accountability, they either need the fundamentals, but like there's something going on mentally that's just holding them back, and they just end up going to like tons of seminars and they make a career out of just going to seminars and stuff and they never really do.
I agree with you. Literally everything you just said. We have Ricky Carruth on, the #1 real estate agent in his county for 8 straight years with over 1,000 deals closed. He became the first completely free real estate coach in the world with one simple mission, which we're going to talk about in just a minute.
And I was able to grow my business a million times faster than all the other agents because I understood this one concept. Lead gen for me is how many conversations is this activity producing? I saw these agents doing, they're spending a lot of time, money, and energy on these things just to get to a conversation. Why wouldn't I spend that same amount of time just calling?
Yeah, because I don't think it's about understanding it a lot of the times. I think it's about people.
The biggest factor is how within the team building process, you're going to have these type of agents that come through and do build up and then want to leave
Totally.
and go do their own thing.
And it bothered me for a long time until I realized that nobody will ever replicate what we do at the level that we do it at.
Their whole purpose is to retain that agent no matter what, at all costs. And that's the wrong mentality.
Well, we didn't. The thing is, though, is our team's not made up of guys like you.
No, I get it.
Right? No team will ever be. Welcome back to another episode of the Austin Zabak Show. Today we have Ricky Carruth on. A lot of you guys probably follow Ricky on social media, YouTube, Instagram, etc. Ricky's somebody that I've actually been following for quite some time. And for those of you who maybe have never heard of Ricky or you know of him, but you don't know some of the things that he's done, I'll just tell you a couple of them. So he was the 3-time #1 RE/MAX agent in the state of Alabama, the #1 real estate agent in his county for 8 straight years with over 1,000 deals closed as a single agent, a 2-time author. And in 2016, he became the first completely free real estate coach in the world with one simple mission, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. And that is to reduce the failure rate in the industry one agent at a time. A lot of you guys know the failure rate in our industry is extremely high. 87%, I believe. We'll get into that. And Ricky's just somebody that has absolutely dominated the real estate agent game. And he's coached and trained and mentored thousands of people. And in this podcast, we're going to dive into everything you need to know as a real estate agent, how to succeed, what to do if you're a brand new agent. Should you join a team? Should you be a solo agent? We're going to dive deep into all these different categories. So Ricky, I appreciate you being here, bro.
Bro, I'm stoked.
Yeah.
I'm stoked. For everybody watching, we are going to get into some stuff. And I hope people can take away a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I do too. I guess real quick, like podcast fashion, right? How did you get into real estate? Like, what was your family in real estate? Like, were you the first guy in your family that got in?
Yeah. I, to be honest, man, like I've always had my back against the wall. We grew up poor. My dad, he owned a roofing business. My mom owned a hair salon, and they worked in their businesses. So I got to see them actually own the business and work in the business, run a business and work really hard. Mm-hmm. And that was super powerful. I didn't even realize it at the time, how unique that was to see my parents do that and the impact it would have on me. And when I didn't know what I was going to do. And I ended up dropping out of college after a couple of different colleges. And I really didn't know what I was going to do. But my mom used to cut a lot of agents' hair. And my mom and dad never put us in daycare, me and my brother. We were always at work with them, hanging out. So like we were on job sites, cleaning up job sites from like 7 and 8 years old. And I was at my mom's hair salon, and all the doctors and lawyers and real estate agents would come get their hair cut. And they knew me, and I knew them, and they always had a big smile on their face. They always drove really nice cars. They always seemed really happy. I never thought I want to be an agent. But when I dropped out of college, my mom had been pushing me to be a real estate agent, and my dad was kind of pushing me to be like a lawyer. And I knew I didn't want to do school anymore. I failed that history class, and I was like, this is not working. I felt more of like a liability, and I was just ready to do something, man. Like, I'm just ready to go. Like I'm ready to make $1 million, something that really has never been done in my family. I have some distant relatives that were like, third uncles or something. I remember there was a couple guys in our family that I remember we'd go, and like I remember like for some reason they were rich to some capacity. I don't know what that meant. If they had like 2 million or 50 million, I don't know. But like there was no one in my immediate family, like my grandparents, cousins, uncles. Nobody had really made $1 million a year that I know of. So that was really just like the goal. And man, when I was little, I remember that there was this moment where I envisioned myself becoming great at something. And at the time, I was really kind of like, I didn't know what it would be, but I envisioned it would have something to do with music for some reason. I played a lot of different instruments when I was, in elementary and middle school and high school. And I didn't know what it was going to be, but I had this vision I was going to become great at something, make a lot of money, and then turn around and help people. And like you look at my life, and that's exactly what happened. I became great at being an agent. I made a lot of money, and then I turned around to help agents, struggling agents. But yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I realized it was one class to get your real estate license. And I like one class, and you have the same opportunities as a doctor, lawyer, all these other professions that take 10 years of school. I can take one class. Yeah. So that's when it hit me. I was like, I'm gonna go for this. And when I went through the class and passed the class barely, at that point I was like, I don't know if I really want to do this, because it was such a commitment oriented process. It's like, okay, they're telling us you got to pass the class. You got a year to take the test. Once you pass the test, you got 90 days to find a brokerage. Then you got to take your post license. It was just like putting these time limits and when I'm supposed to do stuff. And I felt like it was kind of pushing me into this before I was really ready. And I didn't know if I actually wanted to do it or not. So when I passed the class, I went back home and roofed houses with my dad for about 3 days. And that third day I was like, I'm really dedicated. I'm going to really try this real estate thing. And so I went and took the test, and when I passed it, I was like, I'm done roofing, Dad. Wow. I'm gone. And so I worked for 30 days, full time in the office, didn't sell a thing. And I came back and I was like, Dad, I'm back. So that's kind of how I got in.
That's a pretty crazy story. And you were in Alabama, correct me if I'm wrong, at that time, or did you move there?
No.
Okay,
I grew up in
Alabama.
Gulf Shores.
Okay.
Yeah, Gulf Shores.
And so, what year would this have been roughly? Like 2000?
I got in 2002.
2002. Okay,
yeah,
so
in 2002.
6 or 7 years before the market crash, 5 years maybe.
Depends on what you call market crash, because prices leveled out and started coming down in 2005. I want to say 2007 was the highest transactions in the country.
Wow.
Maybe. I think it was 2007 is when we had those. We had 7 million existing home sales. I want to say it was 2007. Can't remember if it was 5 or 7, but one of those years we had 7 million transactions. And in 2021, that's the year everybody remembers as the boom here, the post-COVID, we had 6 million, to put it into relative terms, right? We had way more and with way less population. But 2005, see, I sold Gulfront condos. So it's second home, vacation. And that type of product, when the market, starts to correct, that's the first thing people quit buying, are things that they don't need. Sure. Right. And so I remember January or February 2005 was my last closing. And I got out of the business. And then from 2005 to May of 2008 was my first deal coming back into the business. So it was 3 years there where I sold nothing. I was out of the business. I was roofing houses. I was working on an oil rig. Wow. I was sleeping in my car. I was bankrupt. I filed bankruptcy. I was eating out of people's refrigerators, sleeping on friends' couches, just kind of doing whatever. I was serving tables. I was like,
Yeah.
I was going out, partying. I was doing whatever. I was just living. And I was in my mid-20s, and I was like, thank you, God, for this, because there were guys, the real reason I lost it all is because I was flipping houses with interest-only money that I should never have been allowed to borrow. And when the market flipped, it was like the rug was pulled. You couldn't catch up. You could barely sell some of these properties for what you owed,
right?
Much less for a profit. And most of it was sold for a loss. That's how quickly that knife started falling. And, but there were like 40, 50, 60-year-olds right next to me who were going through the exact same thing, losing everything. And I was in my mid-20s. I was like the youngest guy out there in my circle that was going through the same thing all these other older people were going through. Sure. And I was just like, thank you, God. Because like I knew that this was a godsend for this to happen to me at that time in my life, because I had plenty of time to recover and learn my lessons and come back and crush it, which, the other people do too, but not as much,
sure.
So a lot of people are like, how did you deal with it? Weren't you upset and all this stuff? And the truth is I was happy as I could be. See, regardless of what I do, I could lose everything today. My life doesn't change at all. Why? Because every day I get up and go to work as hard as I can, come home, eat, go to sleep, do it all again the next day.
Sure.
It's like agents that are part-time, they want to be full-time. They want to, they hate their job. I'm like, okay, well, hold on a second. So right now, what's your life look like? You wake up, you work really hard all day, you come home, you go to sleep, you do it all again, right? So what's your life going to look like when you go full-time agent?
Right.
You're going to get up, work hard all day, go home, go to bed, do it all again. How is your life going to change? And so like you could take everything away from me tomorrow. My life doesn't change. My mentality doesn't change. So when I lost everything, like I was working the next day on a roof. I knew all the roofers. My dad wasn't roofing at the time. He had got into real estate, actually. I'd got him into real estate. And I just called a roofer. I was like, hey, I'm coming. They're like, yeah, we want you. Because I could roof a whole house. Right. Like I grew up like on a roof. I could roof a whole house. Like they knew what they were dealing with. And they're like, yeah. And so like the next day I was on a roof, and applying for jobs on oil rigs and, got a job serving tables at night, roofing during the day, serving at night. I didn't care.
Sure.
It doesn't, like I was doing it with a smile on my face. Right. So it doesn't really matter to me what I'm doing.
Yeah.
As long as I'm appreciating where I am and building on what I got and trying to make the biggest impact, then I'm happy. And you can't stop anyone from doing those things, right? Those things are like, there's no competition and there's nothing that can stop you from doing that on a daily basis, right? Appreciating where you are, building on what you got, and doing what you feel like is going to bring the most impact to the world. Even if it's working at the base level job of a McDonald's or serving tables or a janitor or something like that. When I did those kind of jobs, my sole purpose in life during that time was to become the best in the world at whatever it was. When I was serving tables and roofing at the same time, I was only serving tables like 3 times a week because I was like, I'm roofing. Okay. So I can't do like five of these. Okay. I'm getting up in the morning and roofing all day till 5 and then shooting to the restaurant to do a late night, at a steakhouse. And I was like, I can't do. So I did 3 nights a week throughout the whole summer. And like, there were people that work in doubles. They were working, coming in like 11 and working till 11. There were people that was working, 4, 5, 6 days a week. And all they gave me was a t-shirt, but like I sold more food than anybody the whole summer. Wow. And like, even I was blown away by that, but it just goes like, I was trying to be the best in the world at serving tables, at coming up and greeting people, making that connection, figuring out what they want to drink, and being super efficient with, ordering everything and doing it right, getting the food out and turning the tables. I wasn't trying to turn tables fast. I was just trying to do my job and serve people. But that was one thing I look back at and I'm like, but if you look at everything that I've done, I did MMA, I did jiu-jitsu tournaments all over the country. I did music in school and art, real estate, like every little thing that I've done, I really focus on it. And my goal is to become the best in the world at whatever I'm doing. And everybody's always doubted me my whole life with anything. Like I remember I was playing football and I weighed myself. I was a freshman. I was like, I weigh 150 pounds. And like nobody else weighed 150 pounds, at that time. I was like, I think I'm going to try to play football because I'm like, that looks cool.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, I'm a freshman in high school. So a lot of these guys played since they were in elementary school and stuff. And I went out and no, I wasn't great. But by the time I was a senior, I was all county. I had a full paid scholarship. When I got in real estate, I went and talked to the number one historic, like this dude's a legend broker. He was like, you're too young, right? Not even going to hire you.
Yeah.
You're too young. And we all know what happened there, right? So like I start out doing, on these little missions that nobody believes. My dad, my second year in real estate, I remember I was like, I'm going to do 200 grand this year. The first year I made like 20.
Okay.
It took me 8 months to get to my first deal. And then those last few months, I made about 20,000, altogether. So it's 20,000 within the last, 3 months or so of the year. Right. But that was a full year. I was like, I'm gonna make 200 because I saw where the momentum was going. He was like, son, you might make 60 or 70. I remember riding in the truck with him. I think I was helping him do a job. I can't remember. Maybe we were driving somewhere to eat or something. I can't remember, but I remember exactly what road we were on. I remember exactly what truck we're in. I remember exactly what he looked like. I don't know why, because I don't remember a whole lot about stuff.
Same. Yep.
But there's these moments that I remember. And I remember him being like, you might make 60 or 70.
Yeah.
Well, the next year I made 200. So I kind of got to where I don't really tell people what I'm going to do anymore. I just go do it.
Yeah.
And then by the time it happens, I'm like, look at what I did instead of I'm going to do this. And that's a lot of agents, they'll tell me what they're going to do. And I'm like, and I've seen that story so many times. You tell me something and, very few people are going to come through and accomplish what they say they're going to accomplish. Right. And so I'm like, don't tell me what you're going to do. Just go do it. Right. That's the best way to tell me is to just do it. And then that's how you tell me.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear you tell me what you're going to do. Tell that to yourself. Only you know if you're going to actually follow through and be dependable enough to accomplish the things you're talking about. Only you do inside of you. You telling somebody, that there can be a sense of accountability there toward yourself. Like I told this person, now I got to go do it.
Yeah.
I get that part of it. But in the mind of the person that you told, it's like you can't sit here and expect them to necessarily, most people are going to doubt what you say, especially if it's something big and audacious. But like, inside of you, like I knew, bro, when I was a new agent stuff and like people were doubting me and I wasn't selling anything for 8 months and stuff, like I did not care at all. When I lost everything, it didn't bother me at all because I knew who I was.
Right.
I knew that it was just a matter of time before I get to the top, Yep. So these are the things that you kind of like know about yourself, right? If you're dependable, if you're consistent, if you have what it takes. You kind of know those things going in. And the sad part is a lot of people don't think that they have what it takes. They don't think that they're dependable. Like they tell themselves that they don't basically believe in themselves. I see it all the time.
Yeah.
I see it all the time. I coach agents that basically say like, I don't believe in myself. I don't have what it takes. So, why would they want to do business with me and stuff like this? And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're your own worst enemy, when it comes to that.
Sure.
So that's something that.
What were you doing as a brand new agent? Like to get to 200? Like what were you doing at that time? Were you cold calling,
Yeah,
door knocking, doing open houses?
I was
literally.
I was calling and doing letters.
Okay.
Right. Letters and postcards and calling. Back then there was no social media.
Yeah. And who told you to do that at that time? Since there was no social media.
I had a mentor. Yeah.
Well, at Remax.
I didn't have a coach. Well, no, I was with Exit Realty. I didn't join Remax till 2010 when I got back in the business. Yeah.
Okay.
Because Remax is expensive to work for.
Right.
So but I always wanted to be there because that was where the number one agents were. And I wanted to be rolling with the number one agents. I wanted to crush the number one agents. So until I got confident enough in my ability to create consistent closings, because like I got to that point, right when I was starting to get to the point where I felt like I could create consistency, closings every month to be able to handle a desk fee. That's when the market started to crumble.
And you were flipping.
Right. And like when it started to crumble, it kind of like crushed the whole idea that I could do consistent deals.
Sure.
because now I'm not even doing any deals.
Yep.
So now it's just like, no, I really don't know what I'm doing. So when I came back, we had the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, and we had like a mini recession in 2010, and agents were leaving the area. Condo owners were dumping their condos, scared because they kept playing these commercials of these seals dying in Alaska during the Exxon Valdez thing. And nobody knew what was really going to happen. And I sold so much property during that year, right? When we had a mini recession, we had less transactions and we had prices went down, like dipped for a second. It was like a 6-month weird thing. And I crushed it during that time. And because I took that time and I was like, okay, let me test out everything I learned through the big crash. Because when I came back, bro, I'm one of these guys that when you show me something one time, right? And so when the market got me, I was like, you will not get me again. And so when I came back, I took what I learned, I built my business differently, different foundational principles. And when that spill happened and we had the mini recession, I was like, okay, I can test out these ideas these hypotheses that I had that I could make it no matter what the market does. And I crushed it. And that was the moment there that was like, okay, I'm ready to go to the big boys and crush everybody now. And that's when I went.
And that's when you went to Remax.
That's when I went to Remax.
And then that's when you got a different coach or a mentor.
What's so cool about that is, oh man, so the guy that helped me at Exit Realty, his name was Scott, and he is the greatest agent I've ever known.
Wow.
Period. Natural talent, right? You cannot teach what he does. His marketing ideas, his communication skills, who he is as a person. So, and the fact that he gives back. He was the number one Exit Realty in the state of Alabama agent and for Exit at the time, which wasn't a big company at the time or anything, but it was still a massive feat. And I was like, this guy's my hero. And like, he's talking to me. Not only that, like he's spending a lot of time with me, hours showing me scripts and how to find phone numbers and letters to send people and how to get going and how he does things. And I'm like, wow. Right. Yeah. He kind of got me going.
How did you get him to give you all that? Cause I mean,
I'm telling you, this guy was a giver.
Wow.
See, I asked questions and I guess he kind of picked up that I was worth spending time on.
Was he older at the time?
He's 10 years older than me.
Okay. So maybe he saw like a version of him in you.
He's one of these guys that he always has to have a mentee, right?
Just to feel,
just
fulfilled.
To feel like he's doing something for somebody. He doesn't ask for anything, right? And so we became, he's my best friend in life. And we became so close.
To this day.
Yeah.
Wow. Very cool.
This is full circle. This is a cool story. Like we did so much together, right? Outside of work. And then, he was the number one Remax agent in the state of Alabama when I went to Remax. So during all this time, So he crushed it during the 2006, 7, 8. He never got out. He was crushing it.
He was
30,
nimble.
40,
he pivoted.
30, 40 condos a year
Wow.
during the worst years where everybody was leaving the business. I'm out of the business. Like everybody's losing their condos, foreclosed, and this dude's still crushing it. He just changed his messaging up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, the beaches are still just as beautiful, but guess what? It's 50% off these condos.
Yeah.
And so in 2007, I realized he had sold 30, 40 condos. And I called him. I was like, bro, what are you doing? How are you doing this? He's like, come over to the house. I'll show you everything. I was working on the oil rig at the time. I go over there. In the beginning, he taught me postcards, emails, and phone calls.
Yeah.
I go over there. He teaches me postcard, phone calls, and emails. Like he taught me the same stuff. He just changed his messaging up. And that was big because then I realized it's not really about anything, but are you communicating with the right prospects in the market at all times to kind of see what they want to do in terms of where the current market is? Like, what do you want to do in this current market environment? You want to buy, you want to sell, you want to hold, you want to just see what happens. You want to pick up some for cheaper. You want to, what do you want to do? Upgrade, downgrade. And that was like a light bulb. So I came back, I'm crushing it. Like in 2008, I came back in, and by 2010s, when the oil spill thing happened, I was like, you know what, I'm ready. He was over there. So then I go to Remax, and there he is. And now it's like the boys are back together, right? So we're kind of working together, hanging out. We're going to lunch all the time again and stuff like that. And he helped me. He helped me in the beginning. He helped me in 2008, and now we're working together at Remax. And I met my wife there. She was working at Remax, and that's where we met and everything. And so we're just all really close. And what's funny is his wife and my wife's mother, right? So his wife and my wife's mother, they were best friends.
Oh, wow. What are the odds?
Like long time ago. They used to go out and party and stuff when my wife was like, a kid, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Babysitter comes over, they go out and party, there's this serious connection going on. I'm just going to fast forward.
Yeah.
It was last month, they find this guy dead.
Which guy?
Scott.
Oh, your best friend?
Yeah. Yeah. Dead in his car.
Really?
Yeah. He passed away unexpectedly.
I'm sorry for your loss.
It was really tough. So I'm at an event speaking, and it was an NAREP event, National Association, of Hispanic Realtors Association. And I'm about to do a keynote, and my wife calls me and is like, hey, dude. And when she called, I was like, something's wrong. She knows I'm at an event. I was like, what's going on? And she's like, I had to call and tell you before everybody else does, or you see it or whatever. And I was like, I got to go. Give me a second to process this.
And you had to walk up on stage right after that. Wow.
Pretty soon after. It was about an hour after.
Okay.
And I actually just talked about him the whole time.
Really?
At the speech. Yeah. Because how could I not? It's all I was thinking. There was nothing else I could really talk about. But the impact that guy not only made on me, but so many people is just unreal. But what's really crazy is that when I learned that, after I took a second to realize, let reality hit me, I was like, I wonder what he sold this year. How much he sold.
Yeah.
So I looked it up. He sold 10 million so far this year. And then I was like, I wonder what he sold since 2020. So I went back to 2020 and pulled up all agents in the county from 20 to 24. And it was, this was really eerie. All my whole career, I've been chasing this guy.
Yeah.
Right. He was number one over there. He was number one at Remax. I eventually became number one. So I was beating him, but he always had the edge in terms of just pure talent. And that's something I could never touch. His level of talent, it was just God-given. But when I looked up the numbers for what he sold since 20, he was at 100 million, and he was number 34 in the county. There's 3,000 agents in
Wow.
our county.
That's a lot.
Right? He was 34. I was 35.
No way.
Out of 3,000 agents, I just randomly just looked to see what he sold since then, and I see his name, and then I see my name right under it, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm still chasing him.
Wow.
Like I'm still chasing him, and the guy's passed away, and here he is. That was a God thing.
That's crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I didn't really change coaches. He was kind of like my guy. I never had a coach.
Mm-hmm.
I never did like seminars and bought coaching.
Tom Ferry, anything like that?
Nothing.
Wow.
In 2015, in 14, I sold 100 properties for the first time. Mm-hmm. And in 15, I wanted to make $1 million out of that. I made $600K that year, and I wanted to make $1 million. So I put together this plan. I was like, I'm going to make this many calls, get this many listings, do this. Here's my plan, right? December, I was like, January 1st, like, this is it. I've got it all mapped out, make $1 million. Mm-hmm. But it was over capacity. I couldn't do all the things that were on there. So I realized by March I was going to make $600K again. And I became kind of frustrated, right? Super frustrated. And that frustration made me do research and try to figure out what I'm doing wrong. And I was looking up agents all over the country. I was looking up agents doing $500 million in sales, and I was reading all these things, and I was watching all these videos and everything, and I ended up hiring a coach, Tim Harris.
Okay.
Through that process that year, I had him for 4 months, and he was great. And I realized at the end of that people hire a coach for either they need accountability, they either need the fundamentals, mm-hmm. or there's something going on with them psychologically, like there's some kind of mental block, like they are accountable to themselves. They know the fundamentals, but like there's something going on mentally that's just holding them back or has them in a, some kind of state of, panic or frustration. And I realized, because I thought it was fundamentals, because I was accountable as could be. I thought I was missing something fundamentally. And what I realized was that, no, I'm actually like high level fundamentally and accountability. My problem is that I just wasn't patient enough to let my business mature to the $1 million.
Sure.
And that I was doing all the right things. And so that's kind of what I learned through that coaching process with him. And now we're great friends.
That's awesome.
Really close. But I never did coaching and stuff, or like I never went to seminars. And looking back, that's one of the biggest mistakes, because now I go to a lot of seminars. Mm-hmm. I speak at a lot of these things, and I go to some that I'm not speaking at and stuff. And the connections you make and the things that you learn are life changing. And I think the problem is people go to those and most people go to those and they just don't act on the stuff that they learn.
Sure.
And they just end up going to like tons of seminars, and they make a career out of just going to seminars and stuff, and they never really do. Mm-hmm. They know all this stuff, but they never do. And I think if you can find, my thing was like, I'm too busy selling to go to this thing, right? Like I've got deals happening, like I'm making money, and like I want to do this. And I think there's a gray area where you can sacrifice a little bit of this, and you can go and learn things here that could multiply this. But you have to go, and you have to be mindful about, most people go and what happens is most people go to those things and they're like, I'm going to learn a bunch of new stuff and I'm going to go crush it with all these new ideas. And what happens is they go to the event and they walk away and they say something like, that was awesome. I've already heard most of that stuff before. It was a great refresher. And what happens is there was so much new information at this seminar, but their mind ignored the new great information and only kind of paid attention to the stuff that they already knew, or just kind of like reaffirming things they already knew. But why do we do that? It's because our brains are trying to protect us from change, because success is change. Sure. You've got to leave who you are to make room for the next version of yourself, and that next version is going to be the person that actually does the things that need to be done in order for you to succeed and accomplish the things you want to accomplish. But that's a really tough process. Very tough. People don't want to let go of who they are long enough to be the person they need to be. And so your mind protects you from that massive change. And it literally blocks out. So when you go to seminars, you should be conscious that your brain is going to be trying to protect you from success. It's going to try to prevent you from learning the things that you actually need to learn to do the different things, because you can't get where you want to be doing the things you've done.
Right.
Even though the things you've done have got you where you are, and where you are is an amazing place, most people get in the trap thinking that if I just do more of what's worked, it's going to work even better. No. These things only get you so far and they plateau. I don't care how great it was. And that's most people's problems with seminars, is they ignore the great information, maybe thinking it's too risky or it's not going to work, or there's something that their mind tells them to ignore that for, and just keep doing what you're doing, right? Play it safe, keep doing what you're doing. This is where we want to be. And we convince ourselves that that's where we need to be when it's not. And the really great 1%ers realize that at some point realize this, and they quit allowing their brain to prevent them from succeeding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to go back really quick. The first year you sold 100 houses in 2015, right? What were you doing to do that? Was it the same thing that Scott taught you? Was it mailers or postcards, emails, and what was the other thing? Cold calling?
Yeah. Yeah, so, I did.
Because that's what's correct. It's 2 houses a week is what that is. This is a lot of real estate for any one guy or girl to do. I mean, how many agents do you think do that? I mean, is it it's like the 0.01%?
There's very few. I've known some single agents that have sold 150 homes.
It seems very difficult.
I've heard tell of some single agents that have gotten close to 200. I don't know the insights of those agents' business. They had like a showing agent that they don't claim.
Sure.
I was literally just myself and an assistant.
Okay.
So
what about TC?
Not a licensed assistant. Well, she was the TC.
Okay, good. So you at least weren't doing all the paperwork.
No, I wasn't doing any paperwork.
Okay, good.
Right. Yeah. So I'm just in front of people. Mm-hmm. See, I consider myself as an incredibly efficient person.
Sure.
That's why I'm able to go out here as a single agent and crush entire teams. Like there were 20 agent teams in my market during this 8-year run that I had where I was number one in my market. When I say I was number one in my market, I'm number one over all the teams and everything.
Wow.
There were 20 agent plus teams in my county, and I was crushing them, annihilating them. It was like not even fair. The numbers were like this.
And it was just strictly due to the action that you were taking.
Yeah. I'm a very efficient person. When I figure out what works, then it's a wrap. And what I realized worked was just being in front of people. There was an agent at Exit Realty that was Scott's friend actually, and I actually seen him at Scott's funeral, which was an amazing funeral. There was like 1,000 people there, and we hadn't seen each other in a long time. But I remember his name was Jack, and he back then he was just like, just stay in front of people.
Sure.
Right. Just stay in front of people. You know, whatever you're doing, if you're in front of people, you're making money. Mm-hmm. And that's what I realized was the number one highest productive activity. So like when I think about lead gen, you think about all the different lead gen activities, right? And when I think about lead gen, I think about, okay, what's the KPI? What's the metric that actually matters when it comes to lead gen? No matter what the lead gen is, social media, Zillow, cold calling, door knocking, whatever. Direct mail, doesn't matter. To me, the KPI is a conversation with a prospect.
Right.
So how many ever conversations this lead gen activity creates, right, versus this lead gen activities versus this lead gen activities, that's what matters. It's how many conversations I had. And then you can go deeper with, okay, are we getting the right people? Are we having conversations with the right people, et cetera? Then you get into the conversions. Okay, what do we do with the conversations, et cetera, et cetera? But the surface level of lead gen for me is how many conversations is this activity producing? And so when I realized that, it was like I saw these agents doing Zillow and, mailers and, door knocking and social media and all these different things. They're spending a lot of time, money, and energy on these things just to get to a conversation, right? All comes back to the conversation. And so I was like, I can beat all these agents that are spending all this time, money, and energy before they get to the conversation. I can just have the conversation right now with 0 time, 0 money, 0 energy. And not only that, I can have the conversation with the exact person I want to do business with, whoever owns the exact type of properties I want to sell.
Sure.
So like, I feel like I hacked the system,
Mm-hmm.
right? I went completely around all the time, money, and energy. What most agents, most of their work while they're building their business is doing these lead gen activities and marketing efforts and social media, making videos and buying leads and doing all the things that they do just to turn around and hopefully have a conversation with a person. And a lot of these activities, you don't even have control over who that person is. Like, you don't really get control over who the Zillow lead is coming in or who the Instagram lead or YouTube lead is coming in. You have no real control over who that person is. You spend a lot of time, money, and energy to try to create this lead who is really just a random person, versus I could spend 1 penny and get the exact person I want. If I want to sell $1 million homes, 2 million, 3 million, commercial, $500,000, whatever I want, I can literally get the data for a penny and go ahead and just have the conversation right now.
Right.
So I feel like I fast forwarded my career and I was able to grow my business 1,000,000 times faster than all the other agents because I understood this one concept, and nobody wants to just call people and have conversations.
But that's what I was going to say, because I don't think it's about understanding it a lot of the times. I think it's about people fear it.
Well, it doesn't matter if you fear it or not. You can't get around it.
1,000,000%.
So-
but they think they can by doing all the activities that you just mentioned, hoping that they get inbound.
I understand,
But
look at the time and energy. But here's the thing.
Mhm.
In my opinion, inbound is still a cold call.
For sure.
Right? Because you've got people that are inbound that end up being rude to you.
That's true.
You got people that come inbound that ghost you. You got people that come inbound that are low quality.
Yeah.
You have no control. Like, random inbound for me is just incredibly inefficient. Right? Because you could be very targeted and get the exact person you want for no effort at all.
Yeah.
You don't have to make a video. You don't have to do a postcard. You don't have to, buy the lead or pay a referral on the back end. This is yours.
You just got to talk to them.
You just have to talk to them, which you have to do anyway, right? This is the whole point. Is like so in my opinion, a cold call is somebody you talk to on the phone that you've never talked to before.
Sure. Simple.
I don't care if you saw me online, if you inquired about a thing. When I call you for that first time, that's a cold call. In my opinion, my definition, right? So like, we're all cold calling. You can call it a different thing. You can sugarcoat it. You can pretend it's something. But at the end of the day, this is what it is. It's a sales call to somebody you've never talked to before. And you now have to connect with them, create a connection, figure out what they want to do, get them to open up to you. And so that you can help them do whatever it is they're trying to do. It doesn't matter to me if it's inbound, outbound, cold, warm, hot, whatever it is. To me, it's all the exact same.
Yep.
And when I believe that when you understand this concept, you're dangerous.
Oh, for sure.
It's game over.
Game
right?
over.
Because then you realize, and in the beginning, you have to test everything. It's like, go do Zillow. Go do all these things so that you can see for yourself. Right. And then you make a decision of what you think's best for your business. I'll never tell anyone that they shouldn't do something or that this is the wrong thing to do. I know people making millions off Zillow leads. I know people making millions off of every lead gen activity you can think of. And I'll take it a step further. I could take any one lead gen. You could give me just, hey, drop me in a city and say, you can only use Instagram. You can only use YouTube. You can only door knock. You can only do direct mail. You can only cold call, expires for sell owners, Zillow leads. You can only do one thing, and I'll go make $1 million business, right? Give me 12 months at whatever. I could do it sooner with some things than others, but give me 12 months at the most with any lead gen activity, and I'll build a 7-figure single agent business. Because it all comes back to how you communicate with the prospects. Like, you can create leads from anything.
Right.
It just depends. The biggest factor is, how do you communicate with them once you have them on the phone or in person or whatever the communication is? What is your objective with that conversation? How do you, what direction do you take it? That's what matters.
Yeah. Were you mostly seller heavy or buyer heavy then?
Well, I mean, this opens up a whole other can of worms because the thing is
because the data that you're talking about is seller data.
Well,
ultimately, I mean, you can't buy buyer data. Well, because that would just be any data could be a buyer data. I mean, just a random phone number on
the thing is like I never classified myself as a listing agent or a buyer's agent. I was a real estate agent that helps anybody buy or sell. I never turned down a buyer. I never referred one out. I took every single buyer that came through. The difference was I didn't get very many of them.
Right.
And if they were sellers who sold and then now are buying. It's people that wanted to buy my listings. It was a referral from someone. You know, they were really high quality buyers. See, that's the next thing. It's just like when if I focus 100% on property owners, I'll have an 80-20 business. I'll have 80% listings and 20% of my closings will be buyers. If I focus 100%, not 99, any percentage above 0 that I spend on buyer driven activities like buying buyer leads, open houses, etc., that's going to skew my 80-20. See, I don't want any more than 20% buyers because now I'm becoming inefficient and now I can't sell 100 properties a year as a single agent because I'm driving people around all hours of the day.
Right.
And so I've got to leverage listings, and the only way to leverage listings is to primarily focus. But why wouldn't you focus on property owners? They're the highest quality buyers.
For sure.
Right? Even if you want buyers, you should be focused on property owners to be the buyers because they're the highest quality. And if you get a listing, just count it as a bonus on top of the buyer business that you want.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so true.
It's like teams.
Yep. Let's talk about teams.
For me, teams. And again, like I couldn't build a team because I don't have that team, like people management. I'm not people management material. Sure. Right.
Neither am I.
Like, you know, don't even want to think about it. And so, but when I look at, but I am a lead gen guy and I am an efficiency guy and I am how do we build the fastest business in town guy. So I could be the integration of a team to teach, okay, how do we get the highest quality leads the fastest to build this thing out short and long term. And for a team, it's like, does your team have like an ISA department like you're calling?
Not right now. No. I mean, we're going to build that, I think, in 2025. Right now, we do a lot of other stuff. And we have Zillow, obviously. But
when a Zillow lead comes in, who takes the lead?
The agent.
Right.
Yeah.
So they call the lead?
Yeah. Well, or we're on Zillow Flex.
Right. So they call you.
They call you, they patch you in to a 3-way call essentially, or they're rolling out a new thing. They paused it and then they rolled it back out again. I think it's actually rolling out again in December, where it's a message. It essentially, you just get a notification that says this buyer wants to see this house at this time. Do you accept? And then you just accept or don't accept, and then you just meet them there, you know?
Yeah.
So our agents do a lot of that. And then we have a bunch of partners and, open houses.
But
and we teach all the stuff you teach.
Somebody's making calls somewhere.
100%. It's just our agents.
Yeah. Well, I get it. Well, I mean, like that's your ISAs.
Sure.
That's your inside sales agents, your agents who are following up with these leads, right? So somebody's calling somebody, following up with somebody
all day, every day.
Do something, right? And so for me, when I look at these teams that are doing this, I'm like, well, they're spending time on these leads anyway, right? Why? And they're spending a lot of money because Flex charges you a referral fee, right? 35%. Like so we're giving up 35%. We're spending whatever. I don't know if they even charge on the front end anymore.
They don't charge, not for Flex.
So you got 35%. You know, if you close the deal. I don't know how those numbers all kind of work out with how many leads you get, how much time you spend on each lead versus how many actually convert, and then you're paying 35%. I don't know how it all breaks down. But at the end of the day, you're paying 35% for a closed lead. For me, it's like, and these are mostly buyer leads, right?
They are. Yep.
For me, it's like, and I'm not telling you to change your stuff up. I'm just for me, I'm thinking, why wouldn't I spend that same amount of time just calling property owners?
Yeah. Well, we didn't. The thing is, though, is our team's not made up of guys like you.
No, I get it.
Right? No team will ever be. It's impossible because if guys like me were on a team, like I used to be on Jason Mitchell's team, right? Jason Mitchell's a good buddy of mine. I'm sure you know him. He's a really good guy, right? But I remember walking into his office after 2 years of being on his team and saying, I can't be on your team anymore. He said, how come? I said, because I want to be you. And I can't be on your team and be you. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's why you have to, when you run a team, I think the first thing that I realized is that you're not going to change agent behavior. See, every team leader out there is trying to change agent behavior, right? And you're going to go dominate it. I'm going to go dominate it. When I did production, I dominated it, right? But the average agent's not going to dominate it, right? They're just not going to. And so everybody out there is trying to get the average agent who has no intention of killing it to kill it. When I just say, I'll just let you be who you freaking are, and I'll just get 300 of you or 3,000 of you, so I can build my business, and then I'll feed you, and the people who are going to rise to the top, and our top, 10%.
See, this is why I couldn't build a team right here, right?
Right. No, but that's exact. But it took me a long time to learn that, right? Because for 5 years, I tried changing every agent. I tried taking an agent and getting them from 5 deals a year to 15 deals a year, right? And what I realized after a long period of time is the agent who only wants to do 5 is only ever going to want to do 5. They're never going to want to do 50. You can't make them do it. You can lead the horse to the water. You can't force them to drink, right? So then finally, I said, screw it. Then I'll just build a really big freaking team of agents, and the agents who want to do more will do more. I'll make sure they have the right opportunity, and I'll help them and coach them, train them, mentor them, feed them leads. And the agents who just want to do a couple, those agents are good too, because it doesn't matter to me, So I'd love to get your opinion on that aspect of it,
Well, it seems like within the team building process, you're going to have these type of agents that come through and do build up and then want to leave and go do their own thing.
All the time.
I'm sure you've ran into that a bunch. So you do have those winners within the group who come through and work through the process and progress out of the team. And so you kind of end up being a stepping stone for the top producers.
You do.
The ones that aren't as ambitious, not to say there's anything wrong with that, but they're just comfortable where they are. They like, getting fed leads and paying the splits or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
But it seems like there could be a department of those that do want to kill it. Might as well kill it while you're here at the team.
Yeah.
Right. Let's get you to get the team a bunch of listings and learn how the process works. Because it's like when people come in, do you have that talk with them, like what their goals are?
Yeah.
Like, and are they pretty upfront and transparent with you about, look, I'm here to learn what I need to learn so I can go out on my own. My goal is not to be on this team forever.
And we're okay with that.
Yeah.
At one point it kind of bothered me, I think, when I was a new entrepreneur, even with wholesaling or whatever. We get a lot of that on our wholesale team too, where people want to come and they want to learn and take it and try to replicate it. And it bothered me for a long time until I realized that nobody will ever replicate what we do at the level that we do it at. It's impossible. Yeah. I've had the amount of people that have joined. I probably had 400 people leave my wholesale team in the last 11 years that all told me they were going to go do it bigger than me. And not a single one's ever done it bigger than me. Right. And so it's like, I just got to a point where I'm like, sure, go try.
Right.
Go try. Right. I encourage you not to, because you're probably making more money here than you will when you go try to do it on your own. But I encourage. I say, hey, the door's wide open. If you ever decide that you made a mistake, then you're always welcome back. Yeah. If not, no worries. So, but you're right. You are a stepping stone, and you have to be okay with that.
Oh yeah.
And I think a lot of team leaders aren't okay with that, and you see it in the industry. I'd love to get your feedback on that. I know a lot of team leaders who they sue agents over trying to leave. I've never done that.
Absolutely ridiculous.
I do too.
Man. I when I see that with brokers too, they'll make the agent feel so bad about leaving, and it's like, wait a minute, like, are you my friend here, or were you only my friend because
it was a win-win?
You were making money off of me, right? Well, you should be happy that I'm doing something that I feel like is going to be. I'm moving up in the world. I'm going to do something that's better for me and my family.
Totally.
Even if you don't agree with what I'm doing, you should still support me as my friend. And I feel like there is a lot of that.
More than not, I think.
It is. And I hate
me too
to see it.
I've never done that ever.
My broker at Remax, when I left, he's like a father figure to me. And I had $200,000 worth of pending commissions, right? Pending money to me. And when I left, he was sad. See, this is when you know that you got a real one. You go to your team leader or broker and say, hey, I'm leaving.
Yep.
They're either going to be like irate, mad, and try to like tell you, how this is the worst move you're ever going to make. You're never going to be anything when if you leave me, whatever. That's when you know that you weren't in the right place anyway. And that's even, see, you can't lose when you do that, when you make that move, because you're either going to realize this person was never my friend in the first place, or this is a good person and we're still friends and we're still going to do business together. Yeah. See, they're going to be really mad. They're going to be really supportive, right? Or they're going to be supportive and sad you're leaving. And if they're supportive and happy or supportive and sad, that's the best scenario.
Yeah, you're fine with that.
Even if they're sad about it, they're still supportive.
It's honestly probably a good thing if they're sad.
They're still happy. Yeah, they're still happy for you. But when they get mad and stuff, so it's like when you say you're going to leave, it's one of those things, and you don't lose because you either realize they're not who you thought they were, or they really are your friend. And either way it goes, you won. You learn that's when you really learn who somebody is.
Sure.
But when you have that pressure on your shoulders, when you're at a brokerage or something, or you're just somewhere, you feel this pressure on your shoulders. Like, I'm not in the right place here. I've outgrown where I am. It is time to go somewhere where I can learn more and grow more and develop more. And that's when, you know what, don't even think about it. When you feel that pressure, it's time to go, because the longer you have that pressure, the more it distracts you from your actual, what you're trying to do at work, and the less productive you are. Especially if you plateau with what you can learn at a certain place, it is definitely time to move on. But yeah, but my broker, he gave me every single penny of that after I left.
That's awesome.
He supported me. He said, I would do the same thing if I were you. And that taught me a lot. And when I have agents that, leave the coaching program or leave the brokerage or whatever, I'm always really, really supportive towards them. I stay in touch with them after the fact. I want to maintain the relationship. I don't have agents because I'm making money off of them. Right. I'm trying to help them. And if helping them to a certain point and they decide they need to leave my circle to go grow more, and by all means, I help them through this stage of their growth. And if they're not growing anymore, by all means, I want them to go somewhere else so they can continue to grow. But I think it's important to have those conversations on the front end, right? Like, so, okay, you're coming into this team. What are your intentions? Are you looking to just learn what you can and leave? Because if you are, that's fine. And I'll teach you everything you need to know. And I want you to spread your wings and fly. Are you thinking you might want to be here long-term and actually make this your home? Like, what are you thinking? Yeah. Let's be very transparent and open about what my intentions are, what your intentions are, because I think a lot of team leaders, their whole purpose is to retain that agent no matter what, at all costs. And that's the wrong That's the wrong mentality.
Totally wrong.
Right?
I completely agree with you.
And so what happens is the agent comes in, and the agent basically
creates a lot of friction.
Well,
it's like, imagine if you were in a relationship where your significant other, they tried so hard. It's like clingy. Like, it's like, it almost does the opposite of what they think it's going to do, right? It pushes the agent away further, actually.
Yeah. Well, the agent comes in and they're like, I want to be here forever. And the team leader's like, yeah, it's going to be great. Come on in. We'll teach you everything you need to know. Mm-hmm. Well, I think what happens in most teams is that the team leader kind of disguises the fact that they're making that agent dependent on them for marketing, lead gen, mm-hmm. and admin. And so they don't learn marketing, lead gen, or admin at the team. They just learn how to follow up with the people and show the properties and then give it back to somebody to write the contract. And they don't even know how the lead came in, et cetera, right? So they don't know marketing, they don't know lead gen, they don't know admin. So when they do want to go out on their own, they join the team to learn what they need to learn so they can go out on their own. But then when they get to the point where they want to go out on their own, when they leave the team, now they have to learn from ground zero, marketing, lead gen, and admin. It's like, what did we learn at the team? Yeah, we did learn some conversion and some scripts, and we did learn some stuff. We showed some properties. We communicated with people. We saw the process happen. We learned some stuff, but we really didn't learn, it's not like I learned how to go be on my own or whatever. I was actually dependent on the team leader, right? And so
then would you tell an agent, if you were coaching an agent that they said they wanted to eventually leave the team, like join a team and leave the team, if that was their goal day one, would you just tell them, hey, then just don't join a team at all?
Every situation is different, right? But yes, I would talk to them about that, because I would bring up the fact that most teams are going to make you dependent They're not going to teach you marketing, lead gen, or admin.
I don't think on purpose a good team, but just by the very nature of it.
The very nature of it. So
Mm-hmm.
some of it is on purpose, because what I'm saying, like most team leaders, it's designed to retain them. It's designed not to teach them everything,
right,
so that they can't go out on their own, basically. And what I'm saying is that I'm like, and every team's not created equal. Like, so not all teams are like that either, right? So I'm like, it depends on the team.
Yeah.
It depends on the agent.
Totally.
It depends on the situation. Like, there are situations where I would say, yeah, you need to go do a team for a while to just learn the things that they are going to teach you. And then you could, learn these other things or whatever. It just kind of depends. But I do make them aware to be careful with what team they join, what that team leader is promising. Yep. There's a lot of stuff that, especially newer agents aren't aware of. Mm-hmm. They just think they're going to go learn everything. No, not necessarily.
There's a lot of really bad teams out there.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the truth.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, there really is.
You don't know it if you're newer or whatever. And then you get locked in. And here's the worst part about it for me, right? And so, not to talk about anything that, any team is doing, but like, I'm going to go to a team and then I'm going to leave the team, and you're going to keep all the leads that I've been working hard to develop. And like, you may have like paid for the lead and gave me the lead, but now I got the relationship with the lead. And like, so that's a weird thing. It's like the team leader paid for the lead. I have the relationship with the lead, but they gave it to me. So it's just like, and now to me, it's just kind of like, let the client decide kind of deal. But my business is my database. Mm. And so if I leave a team and I have to leave my database behind, I'm literally starting from square one. I might have some knowledge, but I ain't got no client. Any momentum I built is absolutely gone now. I have to start from square one. So that's a whole nother thing. I don't learn admin, marketing, and lead gen. And then when I leave the team, I have zero clientele. I spent 1.5 years with the team basically with nothing to show for it. So it's not that that's a bad thing. It's just that you need to know going in what it is in reality. And if, as long as you know it going in and you're like, okay, well, this is how I want to do it. This is what like, as long as you know going in, great. Right. But most agents don't know that. No. So I do explain that to them going in so they know what they're getting into.
Yeah. And we have a lot of agents on our team. What I've seen in the industry is really, I think the best agent probably on a team is going to be an agent who they're not ever, they don't even have any desire to be Ricky Carruth, right?
Yeah.
They, I think like we have a lot of agents on our team that genuinely are fired up to make $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
And that was their goal all along.
Yeah.
They achieved that goal. They have the transaction department. Everything's done for them pretty much. And they're living their best life and they never leave. We have agents on our team who I'll bet you will never leave our team.
There definitely are. There's the agents that will never leave.
Yeah.
There's the agents that are great and they might leave.
Yep.
There's the ambitious ones that come in and leave quickly.
Yep.
There's the ones that never sell anything. Yeah. Like it's just like anything else. You've got different hierarchy of agents. Yeah.
I want to talk to Ricky a little bit about the NAR stuff, if you don't mind, because I think that's something that I feel like you're the perfect person to talk to about that, and I want to educate the people watching, because I think it scared the hell, and it's still scaring the hell out of a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I'll just preface by saying one thing, and then I'd love to get your opinion on it. But we obviously run a really large team, and so we have a lot of data, right? And we track everything, So I actually looked at our average commission across our team, okay, before that went into effect, the NAR, all the stuff that happened, right? And I want to say, and my partners don't quote me on this, but I want to say our average commission across the board was like 2.33% or something like that, okay, on average. Mm-hmm. And when the NAR thing went into effect, our average commission went up by about 1/10%. Mm-hmm. So I want to say we went from like 2.33 on average to 2.43 on average over a 90-day period. Now we'll see over the next year, 2, 3, maybe that's just temporary and it dips back down. What do you think is going to result in everything that just happened? Like, what does the industry look like now moving forward?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be much different, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. I think this increase in commissions that you're seeing is kind of like the buyer's market kind of coming into full effect.
Mm-hmm.
I think a seller's market, like when we have a strong seller's market before all this, right? Commissions kind of dip down a little, right? And I mean, they fluctuated. They fluctuate.
Sure.
I think this is just not necessarily anything to do with NAR, but it's more to do with where we are in the market cycle. And we're becoming like, we've got, 2 years ago, out of the 200 major markets in the U.S., we had 14 that were over pre-pandemic levels, and now we have 52. Last year it was 17, so it went from 14 to 17 to 52 in October. And Miami is they're 10 months worth of inventory in Miami. That Miami is the outlier of all of this. South Florida and stuff is the outlier of like markets and like, getting into the, like switching from sellers to buyers market. Most markets though are becoming more balanced, right? 5 to 6 months of inventory, which is a balanced market, same amount of sellers as buyers type markets. And we've got some that are dipping into a slight buyer's market. And so I think what you're seeing is just evidence that we're moving, everything's kind of moving towards a neutral to buyer's market. There's still a lot that are in a slight seller's market, but it's changing. It's moving slowly, right? And so as this slow move happens and we have the NAR things change, I think a lot of people are trying to, pretend like that has something to do with what's going on with the commissions, and it just hasn't. If you look at Mike Del Prete, if you follow him, he put out a piece that showed that buyer commissions nationally, have been 2.6 all year, right? Even through the change and everything, like 2 months after the change, it's still it is a little too early to tell, right? With all of this, but what I've seen is I've seen agents get more. I've seen where the seller was offering 2.5%, and the buyer agent put 3% in the contract and get the deal done. I've seen it so many times. I've seen it where the agent gets less. So it's just more of a negotiable thing. But I think what the evidence is showing us so far is that sellers, as they always have, only care about one thing: how much money they're going to make in their pocket. And buyer agents are not going anywhere. And so it was a pretty large unknown before all this kind of came to be. But now that we're in it and we're seeing how the market's responding to it, the thing is, we've been doing it this way for 40 years, right? And so we're accustomed to the way things are done. And I think that, honestly, the plaintiffs' lawyers and the DOJ are mad because commissions haven't went down. I think their whole goal was to make commissions go down. For what reason, I do not know. Right. I do not know. Right. They just tried to crush the reputation of agents. Right. For what reason? I have no clue. But at the end of the day, what we do, obviously, it's like one thing they did was they put it in the hands of the market, to kind of more in the hands of the market. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because before it was like the listing agent decided how much the buyer agent was going to get. It was kind of like, it wasn't fixed. Okay. There was no like, it's the exact same number every time or anything, but they were deciding based on what they negotiated with the seller at the time of the listing. And so the buyer didn't really know what their agent was going to get, and the buyer agent really had no say-so or negotiation, points of that commission. So now the buyer knows what their agent's going to get, and it's in the contract, and the buyer agent can actually negotiate that with the seller, as opposed to the listing agent negotiating it for the buyer agent with the seller. So I don't think it's a bad thing.
It really just forced everybody to have one additional conversation, if you think about it. Kind of, like where before it was just not as much of a conversation. To your point, seller's agent.
I don't think it's an additional conversation.
You don't think
it's part of the same conversation. It's like, here's what we're going to offer, right?
But I mean, with the buyer.
Well, with the buyer, it's like, here's what we're going to offer, buyer, right? We're going to do inspection. We're going to do financing. Here's the earnest money. Here's how much I'm going to ask the seller to pay me for commissions. We're going to make it a contingent on your house. It's not even another conversation.
That's true.
We were already having buyer agency agreements signed, right? That was already happening. I mean, you had to have that, right? And there's different states with different rules and stuff like that. But like, you had to have buyer agencies.
At some point you did.
Yeah, at some point.
Yeah, like once you entered the contract for a lot of states. Like Arizona, you didn't need a buyer broker till you entered a contract. So for us, it was a big change.
Same thing in Alabama, right?
Yeah.
So you didn't have to have a buyer agency until a contract was in place.
Sure.
So now we have to have it before we show the property.
We do. Yep.
Whoop-de-doo.
Right.
It's honestly, it's not even an additional conversation. It's just like, hey, I'm going to send you this document that shows the way that I'm going to represent you on this deal. I can't do anything until you sign it. Let me know if you have any questions. Let's have a Zoom call and talk about it. Let's sit down and talk about it, whatever you want to do. I don't know. Cause like you're talking to them anyway about the properties.
Right.
Right. I don't even know if it's an additional conversation, and honestly, if we do want to classify it as a conversation, it's a conversation that needs to be had. The buyer needs to understand what they're getting into, and the buyers before didn't understand what they were getting into, and so the plaintiffs and the DOJ and the judge and whatever, like they created this extra layer of transparency. And this extra, as you put it, conversation that I believe needed to be had. I think their ultimate objective was to get commissions to come down for whatever reason. And that's something that I just don't see happening.
No,
right.
I don't
and here's why. Agents don't get paid enough as it is.
Right.
And so
a lot of people don't believe that though.
All you have to do,
consumers,
all a consumer has to do, all they have to do is go do a deal on their own, represent themselves on one deal.
Yeah.
And they'll find out. And they will find out really fast why we're at an all-time high with the amount of consumers that use agents, even though we're at an all-time high with the amount of information consumers have. We're at an all-time high with the amount of information on properties and houses and closings and inspections and all this stuff. But yet we're at an all-time high with the amount of people that use agents.
That's a cool stat.
Right?
That's a really cool stat.
We're like at an all-time low with the amount of for sale by owners, like 6% this year of for sale by owners. That's an ungodfully small number of for sale by owners compared to what it is historically. Why is that? We're in this age, this information age where they know everything. Why can't, if that's all they needed was the information, because it's like, we don't need you. We can find all our houses on Zillow. Or sellers are like, we don't need you. We can just post our houses on Zillow and buyers will come calling. Okay, well, if that's all you need an agent for, then why are more people than ever using agents?
It's really true.
So the thing is like, if you're going to tell me, if a roofer is going to charge me $10,000 to roof my house, right? And I'm going to say, nah, I'm going to pay you $5,000, right? He's going to say, see you later. I can't do it. And so this is where we're going to be with agents. If it comes down at all, you're just going to see agents say, sorry, I can't do it. Right? Because I got taxes, I got broker fees, I got expenses, I got wear and tear, I got maintenance, I got marketing. I like you want me to stack up and tell you all the expenses that I have? People think we get 2.5%, 3%, and we take it to the bank,
right,
and start spending it, bro.
The truth,
like we get a small piece of that after all of our expenses. And if you start like a roofer's like, well, I got to pay for the metal, I got to pay for the screws, I got to pay for the labor. Like we have expenses people never talk about. They just think that we get all these millions of dollars and that it all goes to the head. Well, what you're going to see is, and the reason why commissions haven't come down and won't come down is because agents will just say, go do it on your own.
Yeah.
I don't have 100 hours. Right. So there was a study where, buyer agents spent 87 on average, 87 and a half hours on the deal for a buyer. And the buyers, 50% of them thought that their agent spent 15 hours. There's a big misconception with how many hours are spent versus how much the consumer thinks we spend. And it's like, okay, you're not going to pay me, 2.5% or whatever. Then you just gave me 100 hours of my life back that are in the future still that I can go spend to do, working with you's productive, Mr. Buyer. But if you're not going to pay me for the 100 hours I'm about to spend on you, I can go spend those 100 hours on another buyer that will, or something even more productive than that.
Yeah.
Right. So if you don't want to work with me, then by all means, good luck to you. Go do the deal on your own. And when what happens, those prospects come running back to you.
Yep.
So I've had so many people that did go for sale by owner. Like this is back before all this stuff. They go do for sale by owner, or they go buy a house on their own, or maybe they even go use another agent. And not have the same experience that I gave them. They do a deal with me and it goes so smooth. And they're just like, some people will take that for granted and just be like, oh, okay, this is how real estate's done. It's just easy, right? Because Ricky made it look easy. They go try it on their own. They come right back and they're like, bro, whatever you want, right? Whatever you want.
That's the truth.
So we
Yeah.
don't get paid enough.
You said a little while ago, the agent isn't going anywhere, right? And I think that there's a lot of misconception in the world really right now when you look at technology and you look at, what Elon Musk is doing and AI and crypto and all of these things. And I think there's a lot of people out there that actually believe that in 10 years, there won't be an agent. Like you'll just, and I don't know exactly how detailed their belief goes, like what that would even look and feel like. But I mean, do you see a future ever where the agent doesn't exist or isn't needed? Or do you think that we're good for the next 30, 40, 50 years?
Well, man, when you look at the last 10 years and even the last 5 years, technology's improved like more in the last 5 years than it has in the last like 200 years or something crazy.
Yeah,
right?
It's crazy. Yeah.
So when you think about 5 years from now, because it's improving faster at a faster and faster rate.
Mm-hmm.
So like the next 5 years will improve faster than the last 5 years, and then within 10 years, it's going to be like there's going to be crazy stuff happening. So to try to predict where we're going to be in the world, like 5 years out, much less 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, I'll leave that to Elon Musk. But to answer your question, what do I think? I think we'll have less agents, right? I think we'll have less. I think technology will create a scenario where, like it has the whole time, technology and these innovations of ForSaleBanner.com, of Zillow, of social media, of AI, of DocuSign, of showing time, of all these things have only created a scenario where it helps agents sell more properties in less time. It hasn't done anything to wipe agents out. I mean, we've got more agents than we've ever had, right? I mean, it's crazy, right? Like people have more information than ever had. More people are using agents than ever, right? We have more information than ever. Agents shouldn't be here, but yet we have more agents than ever, right? You want a lot of money, quit trying to make money, then you'll make a lot of money. Like everything seems counterintuitive, but I do believe over time that technology will continue to make things so efficient that these big mega agents will take a lot of market share. And I think,
so you think the big teams and the big agents and the people who really know what they're doing, are really dialed in, they're just going to get bigger.
Yep. And
the little agent that, is just a little agent is just going to eventually potentially fade away.
Yep.
Unless they evolve.
I do. And, but I believe very strongly that there will always be an opportunity for anybody to come in and crush it. There'll always be an opportunity for one of these smaller agents to come through and crush it because, I think teams are going to do well, the ones that have it dialed in. But I also think that these mega single agents are going to do incredibly well as well.
I agree. Yeah.
I don't think that you're ever going to see a thing where it's just teams. I think that there's going to be, great single agents, great teams, and you're going to have that pool of agents who, are either struggling or brand new or part-time or whatever. I think that pool will shrink because these mega agents are going to take more market share. But I think it's still an unlimited business, right? Even though I say market share because I'm quantifying it as a year by year basis, like, there's 4 million transactions in a year, and there's only so many in that year. But I think of real estate in terms of not a yearly basis, but I think along the course of your entire career. Like when an agent comes in and says, I'm like, how long are you going to do this? And they're like 20 years.
Yeah.
My job at that point as their coach is to say, okay, we need to strategize on the most efficient way to cram as many transactions into a 20-year period as we possibly can. Not just how many we're going to close this year. What are we doing this year to actually lay down the foundational principles and actually build the business to where we have in 3 to 5 years a 7-figure business that literally almost runs on its own. Dude, when I was doing when I got to $1 million a year, I did that for the last 5 of the 8 years before I got out of the sales. And I was working 20, 25 hours a week, doing 2 deals a week. It was a really high, and I was a single agent with one assistant. They have a team, they have people doing stuff. If you build your business right, you can have your cake and eat it too. People think like the only way to have a passive commission business is to build a team. That's not true at all.
Yeah.
I was working 25 hours a week, doing $1 million a year while I was building the coaching, my personal brand. on the side. Like you can have your cake and eat it too. There's a million different ways to do this. It's not just like, oh, it's just this way or that way. But anyway, to answer your question, I think that pool though will shrink. I do, because of technology and how efficient these mega agents are going to be.
Yeah.
But I think there's always going to be room for a killer, right? I think there's always going to be room for a self-starter, somebody who wants to break their bloodline, somebody who has that chip on their shoulder, their back against the wall, a Ricky Carruth type. There's always going to be room for somebody, because when I'm thinking about your career and how many deals we can squeeze into it, it's all going to come to how many people. The only thing between any agent and their goal are just thousands of one-on-one conversations with people in their market. So if you can cram those thousands of conversations into 3 to 5 years versus 30 years, which is what most agents do, you can get to your goal really quickly, right? And you can get where you want to be, and then you can do the things that you want to do.
Sure.
But nobody can stop you from having those thousands of conversations, right? Nobody. The only thing that stops you is if that person is under contract with an agent. Like, I can't talk to you if you're listed with another agent, if you're a property owner. That's the only thing that stops me from having a conversation with you. But in terms of how many homes are available and how many property owners are available to talk to, that percentage is literally like less than 1% of the homeowners are listed with an agent. So you got 99% of the homeowners out there that I can talk to and have these conversations and develop these relationships with and build my career. So nothing can stop me from actually going out there and building these relationships and doing what I need to do to crush it.
Yeah.
But I do think there's going to be less agents. I think that's what I believe that's kind of what it's going to look like, but we'll see.
I agree with you. I actually agree with literally everything you just said, Well, we're coming up on an hour and a half, so I have a couple other questions for you.
Damn.
Yeah, isn't that wild? If you were a brand new agent, Ricky, in 2020, maybe let's say 2025, you're getting into real estate, you're brand new, you're young, you're a hustler, you want to be the next Ricky Carruth, right? If you could only do one thing every day, like one lead gen, one marketing, one thing, like maybe what would that thing be if you had to boil it down to one? So that way you don't have these new agents running around trying to do all of these different, because would you agree with me? And I know it's kind of I guess maybe a two-part question here, but would you agree that a lot of agents try to do too many things at one time when they're brand new, and they should really just kind of hyper focus on a thing?
Yeah.
What do you think that should be in 2025?
I do think that they do too much at once.
They're trying to like do open houses. And
I think they need to do a lot of different things, but I think they need to stagger it out.
Yeah.
Focus on one or two for a while and see how it goes and really get those two going, and then focus on a couple more. You need to try a bunch of different things to figure out what works for you. Because what worked great for me may not exactly won't work for everyone else, and vice versa. So the objective is to figure out what works for you and go all in. I think if you understand what I talked about in the beginning of the podcast about the goal and the real objective of any lead gen, I think if you understand that concept first, that the entire goal is to create conversation with the prospect, right? If you start there, right? And then whatever the lead gen is, if it's Instagram, okay, great. Let's use Instagram to see how many conversations we can create today.
Yeah.
How many people can I get on the phone or get in person or get into a DM back and forth with? How many conversations and connections can I make with Instagram? How many connections can I make with YouTube? How many connections can I make cold calling, door knocking? And that's the way in the beginning you need to kind of measure it, right? How many conversations is this activity producing? And then, once you get past that, okay, who are these conversations with, and then let's figure out how to communicate with them to convert. What is your definition of conversion, right? Because my definition of conversion is a lot different than a lot of other people's. My definition of conversion is that I had a great conversation with this person. That is it. I don't care if we set an appointment or they want to do something, or it doesn't matter to me, because remember, I'm building my career. That I know that these people are going to do multiple deals and refer multiple people over the course of my career.
Sure.
And I want all that business. I can't make them buy today, but if I connect with them today, I may be able to represent them later on a multitude of different deals and get referrals.
Yeah.
And that's the secret. That's how my business is going to blow up. So I have to understand these fundamental principles first, because if I don't, then I'm just like, just trying to get a deal done, which is what I did in the beginning. Is why I fell on my face. I mean, I lost the money flipping houses, but that's not the full story. If I could have continued selling real estate as an agent, I would have been fine.
Yeah.
Right. So I fell on my face because I lost money because I was flipping and I had a couple million in debt and I was toast. But if I could have continued selling, so I didn't understand that it was about relationships and actually building lifelong, building a career. I was just trying to close deals today.
Right.
Which is what most agents do. So if I can get new agents out of the mindset of just trying to close a deal today to just trying to have a great conversation today, and through the great conversation, getting them to open up to you about what they do want to do in terms of real estate. See, that's the objective of lead gen, is to create a conversation. The objective of prospecting is to get the prospect to open up to you about what it is they want to do and why, so you can help them do it. And I don't care what that is. They can want to sell in 6 months, a year. Now they could want to buy commercial or list this. I don't care what they want to do and when they want to do it. I just need to know what that is and understand why. So it's like a lot of agents, the seller will say, I want to sell in 6 months. And they're like, all right, cool. I'll call you in 6 months.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. It's like, number one, okay, what's going on in your life that's causing you to want to sell in 6 months? You didn't just wake up and say, I want to sell in 6 months. What's going on? And a lot of those sellers are blowing smoke. They're telling the agent that line because they know it works so well to make the agent go away. I'm like, what's going on in your life that's causing you to want to sell in 6 months? They tell me the story. I realize, okay, this is legit, or they were just blowing smoke. Then it's like, do you want to close in 6 months or start the process in 6 months? See, that's two completely different scenarios and servicing methods and follow-up process. If I'm just saying, okay, I'll call you back in 6 months, click, but they wanted to close in 6 months, they wanted the deal to be done in 6 months.
You missed the opportunity.
I call them and they're already closed, right, with another agent. See, this is what a professional does, right? And so my objective isn't to set an appointment to sell a property, list a property. It's just to get them to open up to me about what they want to do.
I love that.
And understand why they want to do it. Go 5 to 10 questions deep on why they want to do it. And then I can actually help them. I can put together a plan as a professional, and this is going to show them how much I care, how professional I am, et cetera. So I've got to understand all this stuff, really. In my opinion, new agents need to kind of understand I call this stuff the basics of all this before you, so that you know why you're prospecting, why you're doing this thing. And honestly, when you get this, it doesn't matter which lead gen you decide to pursue. You understand what the objectives are, what the KPIs are, where you're going with this, short and long term. And the real secret, honestly, is when you have the great conversation, you get their email and their phone number, and you do a weekly email, weekly text forever on the same day of the week, forever, to show consistency, dependability, hard work, professionalism, giving your opinions on stuff, not automated, not cold market stuff or automation stuff, but like your opinions on stuff that's happening right now in the market. That's what's going to build your brand. And so now you can build a career, because if everybody you talk to, you put in the database, you send a weekly email, over the course of 5 years, you got 5,000 people or whatever that are all like into you. They're into your stuff. They're following your emails and text messages. They see you on social. They see your signs in town, around town. Your business is massive. Right. And everybody wonders how you did it. So if I had to do one lead gen, I tell you what I would do today in this market. I would pick out the best new construction subdivision with the best rate buy downs and the best incentives and the best appliances they're giving away and the best closing cost deal, the best new construction thing. I call all the property owners around it that have older homes and say, hey, you want a new home? I got one you can get for this %. You can take all the equity you got. Your mortgage payment will be cheaper and you'll be in a new home.
Yeah.
Right. I'd love to show it to you if you're interested. And then with the objective of not trying to sell the home.
Right.
Just trying to using that to start a conversation to see if they're interested. If not, get them to tell me what it is they want to do. Right.
Yeah, so it's just a hook.
So I can help them do it. And so I call them bringing value, instead of calling them trying to get them to give me something like a listing or an appointment, or like, I'm not trying to take, I'm trying to give.
Right.
I'm trying to start the relationship out on the right foot. That's what I would do in this market.
I love
That's
that.
my favorite strategy right now.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think that's the best thing going as far as something to call property owners and offer them to start that conversation out and that relationship out on the right foot, you know, just to see where it goes. I got agents right now crushing it with this. And like, they'll do this and they'll just pick up listings.
Yeah.
And like people don't even want to buy this new construction. I think
they might go buy another resale.
Yeah, they
house.
sell, they buy, they refer their client. Now they're clients.
They're in your Rolodex.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that, dude.
Yeah.
That's awesome. One of my final questions for you, maybe the final is, you know, love him or hate him, we're going back into a Donald Trump economy, right?
Yeah.
That's a fact. And so what do you speculate the next 4 or 5 years to be like in the market? You know, do you see interest rates come back? And I know nobody's got a crystal ball. I get it, right? I don't, you don't, nobody does. But I always like to get real estate guys' opinion on what they think will happen in the market.
Yeah.
You know, do you think we'll ever see a 3% rate again? Do you think that was a once in our lifetime thing? And then, and do you see a market crash anywhere in the near future or market correction?
Not in real estate. You might, who knows what the stock market will do temporarily.
Sure.
I don't think you'll see a home price correction. We've already seen a correction when it comes to transactions. We're down to 1992 levels of transactions in the country. So we'll see a bounce back, but I don't think it has much to do with Trump. I think we were kind of bottoming out and kind of heading back the other way. I think there's a lot of consumer confidence, you know, with the new president coming in. I think there's a lot of builder confidence. Fannie Mae's calling for fewer homes to start next year than this year, but then the year after that, a 7 to 8% jump in the number of home starts in 2026.
Okay.
Also 2026 getting back close to a 5 million existing home sale type market, which that's what I predicted, what I've been predicting the whole time, that it will take about a year or two, that we won't see that 5 million regular normal year bounce back next year, but it'll take a year or two to kind of stair step our way back to that market. But I just see it. It's unknown as far as like the Trump thing, right? Because like it could go really great or really not great. And so we just got to kind of wait and see, you know, how everything kind of plays out as far as that goes. But
do you think rates will come back down?
Not really.
Yeah.
Not really.
You think we'll just hover kind of where we're at?
Here's the thing about rates.
You don't think we'll go up?
No.
Okay.
Here's the thing about rates. They can't come down much because there's so much pent up demand for homes. Like all these people that are sitting on 3 and 4%, there's like 80% of people are sitting on 4% rates. I mean, like,
it's a stupid number.
They're dying. I mean, a lot of them are so tired of their current home, but they can't move and they want to move so bad. And every day that group grows more and more and more. Well, we have more 30-something-year-olds than we've seen in decades as well, which is the primary first-time home buyer age. There's like a large spike in the number of people that are turning 30 every day, right? Huge spike because of the birth rates in the 90s.
Sure.
So we have all this pent-up demand that we don't even know about. We've never even seen anything like this before because,
it's never happened.
You know, and like we don't even know it because the market's so suppressed that we don't even realize that we're sitting on this, but we're sitting on this massive pent-up demand. And so, and everybody knows it. Yeah. And like every time you see it, every time the rates come down like 10 basis points or something, like you see a spike in you know, mortgages and stuff. They can't bring them down, bro, because if it comes down, oh my gosh, it's going to be, you know, it's just going to be, we're going to be like back in like a real estate war zone, you know, where it's just multiple offers.
It'd be back in 2021. It would look like that. If they brought rates back down to 4%.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. 4%. Yeah. I mean, but even if you brought them down to 5.5 or so, right. I mean, like 5.5 would be like an atomic bomb.
It would drive prices through the roof
again.
My
gosh. And that's something that you just do not want.
Well, it's a different problem. It's now that things are even more unaffordable than they already are. Yeah. And they're already pretty unaffordable for your average person. Would you agree with that? I mean, when you look at the income,
that's the biggest problem.
Unaffordability, right?
Yeah, it's unaffordability. People can't, if they can keep rates kind of where they are, where it's suppressing the demand and kind of keep demand suppressed and just kind of trickle this thing out and let wage growth kind of happen.
Yeah.
You know, I think we can dig ourselves out of this
slowly.
Yeah.
If you try to do anything too quick, it might blow up.
So I think we're heading in the right direction when it comes to all this.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a slow, gradual grind. We're not going to see any big jumps. They're not going to lower rates down to where we see any of these crazy, surges or anything, which is what we want. We want to get used to the market that we're in, right? And be happy when it gets better.
Yeah. That's the truth. Yeah. No, I agree. And I think, to kind of finish that off, I think that no matter what happens, the good agents, if that's who we're talking to right now, are going to figure it out and make a lot of money and help a lot of people. I mean, it's just the reality. It's like what you said in the 05 through 08, your buddy Scott was still crushing it. It's the same concept, right? It's like I always tell people, and I'm sure you do too. It's like, look, it ultimately doesn't matter. Like if you just have to be nimble enough so that depending on what's happening in the market, you can get out in front of the right people to make your goals a reality. Like it doesn't ultimately, I mean, I've had a lot of people on my podcast that made the majority of their wealth from 2007 to 2012. I've had people on the podcast, and you probably know some of them, that own 300, 400, 500 rental properties, 80%, owned outright, so they have 20% debt on these massive portfolios that they built off, a bad market. Mm-hmm. So, at the end of the day, no matter what, there's always going to be opportunity.
Right now is a lot of agents would love to go back to 2008 because they know how it played out.
Sure.
But when you're in 2008,
you're scared.
You're scared to death.
Yeah.
It's the same thing now. Like agents will look back 5-10 years from now and say, man, that 2024 market, that was the place where I should have went all in, because these down markets is when you expand in the down market. Oh my goodness. When the market rebounds, your business just organically expands. Right. And that's the amazing thing. If you work these market cycles correctly, the down market is what you want, because it gives you a chance to, when you expand in the down market, you're unstoppable because the market will rebound. And when it does, your business is going to explode.
I love it. Well, I appreciate you being on the show, Ricky. Where do people find you? I know you have a big YouTube channel. You do a lot on Instagram. You're on every platform. But where do you want people to reach out to you if they want to be coached by you, or they want to link up with you, partner with you in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah. Instagram and YouTube are good. Also, ZeroToDiamond.com. That's my coaching program.
Cool. ZeroToDiamond.com.
Yeah.
And you teach people everything in that program, I'd imagine. Cool.
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
So
I do coaching calls. I have a course there. I have a CRM and templates and everything.
Cool. I'll link everything down below. I appreciate you being on the show, man.
Yeah. Now it's a blast.
Thank you very much. Hey, if you're still watching to the very end, make sure you leave a review if you haven't already. Like the video, comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next one.